I wanted to show the world what it's like, living with jihadis. I was fortunate enough, or maybe unfortunate, to run into the mayor, Françoise Shepman, a woman whose political position depends on the support of the Muslim community. It's 80% Muslim in Molenbeek. She was warned about the Bataclan attackers before they launched their attack. She was given the names of the individuals. She was told their addresses. She was told that an attack was imminent, and she did nothing. And I asked her, why did you do nothing? How could you do nothing if you knew? And she told me it was not her job. It was not my job. She turned a blind eye to the planned terror attack in Paris because she was more interested in the Muslim vote. And this is a pattern repeated over and over and over. 137 died, 500 were injured, some beyond living a normal life ever again, because she needed to look after her vote. And it's indicative of what happens in societies when a Muslim voting populations take hold. And there are three simple phases to the Islamic takeover of our countries. I'll leave it to yourselves to work out where you're at. Firstly, the move out. Overwhelmed by new arrivals, the rapidly changing face of the place you used to know, traditional families are forced out, replaced often by 4 or 5 families where there used to be 2, 25 voters where there used to be a couple. Secondly, funding flows in. Mosques spring up. They multiply to serve and condition this densely packed population. Funding flows in through the mosques. Be under no illusion. It leverages the voice, the clout, and it lines the pockets of the Muslims who live there. Muslim housing is allocated by Muslim-run councils. A Muslim police force appears. I don't know if you've enjoyed that joy just yet. Thirdly, political monopoly. Political representation is pushed forward, promoted by the mosque, financed by the funds from overseas, and very often international money. And now you no longer have people voting for policy or things that they need to happen. You have people voting according to religion. Just take one look at Ilhan Omar in Minnesota as an example. She took the baton from another Muslim, Keith Ellison. Rashida Tlaib in Michigan, who waved her Palestinian flag as she celebrated her election to an American Congress. It always makes me wonder, you know. You're right there. One too many. How these people come to America for a better life, and yet the very flag they wave when they have been afforded an opportunity is the country they chose to leave behind. It's a curious thing. And whilst the nationals of any country are still being force-fed mandatory tolerance and multiculturalism, which is a blatant lie in my view, political Islam takes control of your city, its finances, its policing, its housing, its future decision-making. Muslim politicians are guaranteed tenure and Islamist succession in return for pandering to the Muslim vote, even if it means turning a blind eye to terror, as in the case of Françoise Shepman, who later tried to sue me on behalf of the city of Molenbeek for defaming her city, a city called the jihadi capital of Europe. It's quite hard to defame somewhere called the jihadi capital of Europe, but she alleged that that was what I'd done. Inside that place are illegal mosques and money laundering facilities, clearly on view, talked about by the local population, but nobody does anything because they don't dare. Or take the example of my capital city. I say that with some shame, Londonistan, where our tiny Muslim mayor presides over a Muslim housing association, a Muslim police association, and throws an Eid party funded by taxpayers' money in Trafalgar Square to please the voting base that he needs. I'll assert here that it has become impossible for a non-Muslim to be elected to the office of mayor in London. I believe it's an electoral impossibility now. The London boroughs have staggeringly high Muslim populations by design. In Tower Hamlets, by far the biggest group is Muslims. Newham has one of the lowest white British populations, but the second highest concentration of Muslims, just behind, you guessed it, Tower Hamlets. And in the UK today, I am a minority white. In London, Luton, Leicester, Bradford, and Birmingham by 2020, as we saw in the documentary, Muslim births will outnumber births to any other by 2035. And you know, sometimes we say that, don't we, 2035? Oh, that sounds like a long way away. Just, you know, over 15 years' time, we are officially outnumbered. Our people are being forced out from within. And that's really what the genesis of Homelands was all about, was listening to people who say, I just don't know what's happening in this country. I don't recognize this country anymore. People tired of feeling like second-class citizens in a place where they pay taxes and they used to feel like they belong. You know, currently I think many mums, just like myself, I have 3 children aged 15, 14 and 10. That's why I spend so much time on the road. You know, we feel like our children are targets. You know, we worry for them when they're not with us. We worry for them when they're on the subway. Today, actually, and I think symbolically, or at least it feels it to me, is the 6th anniversary of Lee Rigby. He was the service personnel, a little sweet gentleman who was hacked to death with a machete on the streets of the UK after he was run over. It's also the 2nd anniversary of the Manchester Arena terror attack, where 22 of our young children, girls and boys, some mums, were blasted apart by bullets, by nuts and by bolts in a homemade explosive device. And you know, the thing that really makes me angry is that you look at Twitter today and the hashtags that were permitted by the Twitter gods were "We stand united, together, we're stronger together, hashtag Manchester." You know, hashtags slaughtered by Islamists, actually, Twitter, if you want to tell it straight. This whole hashtag's lighting a tea candle, having a vigil. I respect people's needs, but it is not changing anything. It is not solving anything.